Hey guys, it is Ed again. Remember when I told you I'd be recording that video right after the learner role deck profile? Psych, I lied. It's actually been 2 weeks since I recorded that video. And the reason for that is I decided to change up my Gravidia deck profile a tiny bit in regards to some of the winners from the recent Spring Fests, that since we're concluding Spring Fests now as of time of recording. And I like this build so much better. It gives you a little bit more aggression, and because of that, I was able to top the last 2 weeks at all my locals that I go to, and I go to 2 locals weekly. So I just want to quickly, I wanted to quickly update it, test it, and see if it works, so I can feel confident with giving you guys this deck list. It might look familiar if you've been paying attention to the Spring Fest results, but let's get right into it. So our ride line for Gravidia is going to be Dellen. Dellen will be our standard Gravidia starter. And then next one would be Rutus. He will be our World Searcher, so it should be obvious now we're running the build version of Gravidia. Followed by Kupisa, and then Nordlinger, and then the main idea of Kupisa is to give that extra kiss, so it could go with the Shadow Army token or on a card we're going to go through later to try to get bigger numbers to hit. So let me just quickly put this up there, put the ride line back in order, boop, 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 and as regularly, we're going to work our way from grade 3s and work our way down. So, of course, if we are going to use Nordlinger as our main vanguard, we are going to want to run 3 copies of Nordlinger. For the uninitiated, Nordlinger is our Meteor Searcher. So, with the skill, when placed, we can search out 2 Meteor cards. In this case, it can be either Neatness Meteor, which allows us to soul charge 1, and if it's placed by a Vanguard skill, draw a card, or we can use Falling Hell Hazard. Falling Hell Hazard, it allows you to, when you pay the cost of a meteor, it counts as 2 meteors, thus allowing us to have more units in our deck without running 16 meteors. Next is a card I don't see too much of during play, but you know, it's a good 3 of tech, in my opinion, is Baku Burrito. I know that's not its name, but I've been calling it Baku Burrito since release, so it's going to stick. So Baku Burrito, essentially, it reacts to our meteors. It is a 13k base unit, and if we retire 1 unit from the enemy board, which we should at least try to do every time we use a meteor turn, it will gain 5k, making it an 18k unit. And if we retire 3 or more units, it gains a bonus crit. Skill of Baku Burrito is we could Soul Blast 1, and it will allow us to take a meteor from our drop and put it back into our order zone, thus letting us gain meteors to recycle, which can help us, especially if the games get longer, as we can basically just keep giving our Vanguard the 5 meteor costs, especially if we are basically out of our 2 cost meteors. So now the deck I am in love with in this deck, the card I'm with, not the deck, is Stanner. Stanner is such a good card for being what it is. And so, once again, for the uninitiated, Stanner is when we have 5 order cards, and that includes our world card, in our drop and drop zone. It gains 5k power and 5k shield, so it can easily help us make shields in the late game if we need them, and can come in clutch. Next one is the one I just added. I only run 2 copies? I thought I ran 3. Anyway, I might bump this up to 1 more and move something else around, but Rylik. Rylik is the new card I added to it, and it actually helps get meteors out so much easier. So Rylik, on hit, I can choose to search my deck or my drop zone for a meteor card and add it to the order zone. So unfortunately, since when you pay the cost for our 2 cost meteors, it will not be able to grab it because they are bound instead of in the drop. But this allows us to basically play a meteor every turn up into grade 3, essentially. Because the way I do it is I tried it both ways. Like if I'm on my grade 2, I would call Rylak to one side, have Shadow Army on the other side, swing with Rylak. Oh, and with the Vanguard skill, we have 5k. So swing for 15. If it hits, I get a meteor. Swing with the Vanguard, and then swing with another 15k unit. But what do you call it? I've talked about it with everybody else. It's a lot easier to have the Shadow Army boost because it's automatically a 30 attacker, and that early in the game, your opponent's just going to basically take it because they don't want to put too much guard down on the grade 2 turn. So this is definitely one of our targets for Mulligan. And I would say your target Sword Mulligan is Rylak, Nordlinger, and I am going to say Neatness Meteor. Yes, you could get the 2 cost Meteor, but I prefer searching that out as opposed as to discarding it if I have to for fodder. Next, grade 2 is one of our orders. I previously ran 2 to try to get 2 Shadow Army tokens out, or at least call it back if it gets retired in any way. But I brought it back down to what it should be, because it allows us to do deck thinning. Eclipse Moonlight, because 1, it's on brand with this channel, and 2, it calls and we get our Shadow Army token. Okay, there's pretty much not back, but since it is a order card, it does count for Stanner's effect. Next, I originally ran it as a 3 of, but it graduated to the big boy club of 4. We run 4 Falling Hell Hazards. Hang on, this one's gonna bother me. We're gonna put the SR, PR, the SP. I don't know why I had a stroke there. SP on top. But, so yeah, as I mentioned before, it is the meteor that when it's sent from the order to the drop, it counts as 2 meteors. But you have to keep in mind, even though it counts as 2 meteors towards Nordlinger's skill, it can still only retire 1 unit. Alright, and then working our way down again. I run a 2 of Bulbamine. Bulbamine will be our countercharger, because especially with the meta right now, if people see they're playing against Gravidia Nordlinger, they will try to damage deny. So it's always good that if you have that, if your opponent's trying to do that, so that depending on how I feel the turn on my first grade 3 turn, if I'm damage denied because this costs a counterblast to play and I'm still only have 1 damage, I would try to have a rear guard, Vanguard, rear guard, and then have Bulbamine boost one of the rear guards so that, because its effect is when it's boosted, it's not an on-hit skill, or when it boosts, I should say, it countercharge 1, so that allows Gravidia to swing with her meteor's turn, which typically on my first grade 3 turn, I try to use 1 Hell Hazard and 1 Neatness to get the 3 meteor skill of plus 50k and a bonus critical, because I want to save the 5 meteors for Persona rides, because it just makes it a lot harder and pressures the opponent, puts them up against the wall. Next, 2 of Wells. Wells would help us put out more meteors if our hand is full, but sometimes, I just use it to get a 10k booster on the field if possible, because sometimes I still need to keep cards in my hand if they're meteors, so I can pay the cost of, like, perfect guards. And speaking of perfect guards, 1 second. There we go. We got 4 perfect guards of Violate Dragon. This one, it's self-explanatory. It's just a good perfect guard, and it's a staple in every Brandgate deck. And now you guys get to see the ratios for other meteors. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So the ratios I have here are 6 neatness. It's basically just so I can mix and match with Fallen Hell Hazards to try to get to 5 meteor turns, plus recycle with the skills of Rylik and Baku Burrito, just so that we could just really try to push for the end game. And now we're going to work on our trigger lineup. So, as you probably suspected, since this is a Nordlinger build, we run a bit heavier on crits. So we run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 critical triggers. 4 of which are the effect crits, just in case we need to get more soul to either get Baku Burrito skills off, Wells skills off, and yeah, that's basically all who uses my Soul Blast in my deck. And then I do 3 effect fronts, basically for the shield and the fronts, because if we use them on our 5 meteor turn, it's 20k to the front row as opposed to a regular 10, making it easier to hit. 2 effect draws, most of the time I use them as ride fodder, but they become 10k shields, and the draws also help us get to where we need to go. And can you guess how many heals we run? Yes, the standard 4 heals. And that's basically self-explanatory, 15k, we like to have 4 heals in the deck. And then finally, we run the Brant Gate over trigger. When you get this card on your 5 meteor turn, because since it is a trigger, it does activate twice. So you get plus 400 million to one unit and plus 200 million to another unit, and their criticals double, or technically they quadruple, because they double and then they double that. So, so this is basically the deck profile. Like I said, your mulligan targets are, in my opinion, Rylik, Neatness, and Nordlinger. And typically, when I push for turn 2, I try to use Rylik's skill to grab me a Hell Hazard, so that when I ride Nordlinger, I take out 2 Neatness from the deck, and then that allows me to draw 2. So I'm basically just thinning my deck out to get to my triggers. And I'm trying to think about matchups. So this deck is pretty strong in its own right. Like I said, this has allowed me to top both weeks, so for locals. So I just love this build a lot more than what I was previously running. I might try to move something around and put Rylik up to 3. I might take out a Wells, because most of the time my meters are gained out by various other skills than by Wells' skill. And the trick I use personally is when I play against Prison or Seraph, I typically choose to soul charge off of the meteor, but other than that, if I don't expect to have to counterblast or soul blast rather, I just don't. You can choose not to soul charge, and then I still draw cards. So basically, all this is about deck thinning to get to your triggers, and priority is the over trigger, because like most of these games, it does basically give you a win con if you pull your over trigger offensively, but with Nordlinger it's even that way. So like an example would be Nordlinger would be out, so you do a 5 meteor turn, it already has a crit. The dream drive check is critical, so now Nordlinger is at 3. And we're assuming they didn't perfect guard, but expect them to almost always perfect guard your Nordlinger. And so you're basically just trying to give other units a fighting chance to do a lot of damage. So once again, like you choose to give the crit to whoever you need, and then if you offensively on the second check get your over trigger, so you could give both of those rear guards 400 million and 200 million, and then if you give that crit to the rear guard, it goes from 2 to 4 and then 4 to 8. It's disgusting when you think about it. Like, I've done it, I wouldn't say 5 times when I first started playing this deck, and that's what made me fall in love with it and continue to build upon it as the sets go on. And it's just like so much fun to play. Let me check my deck box one more time. Yep, that's basically it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Comment what you think about this deck profile. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you guys are brand new. I will try to post new Vanguard content guaranteed every Friday, but I think I might toss in a Wednesday upload, and then other days, if I am able with my work schedule, I will upload other content, so stay tuned if you want to see that. Tell me what you guys want to see down below. Tell me if you guys want to see matchup videos, certain matchup videos, and I will see if I can make those happen. Alright, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay safe, guys. Peace.